And we are live. Welcome to the first row. It's your boy Billy Rowe. Today is Wednesday, so you know what time it is. It's time for your Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is visual ID. So I always like to start off by explaining what I mean by the topic. What do I mean by the term visual ID? The simplest way to put this is that in life, when you interact with people, it is important to believe who they show you they are. And I don't mean who they show you you are from the perspective of, hey, I just want to, manipulate you into thinking I'm a good guy or a good girl and or wifey material or hubby material, whatever it may be. I'm talking about from the perspective of believing when they show you who they are, when you're observing them from a position where they may not know they're being observed. I don't mean following them and stalking them. I just mean when they're in a relaxed mode and they're representative, as Terrelyn would call it. Hey, what's going on, brother Bruce? As Terrelyn would call it, is not being on display and they are their authentic self. Believe who they show you they are. That is what visual ID is. So, just in a nutshell, that's what this topic is going to be about tonight. From the perspective of, or how I like to approach topics is I like to just kind of like give a couple of points. So when I was thinking about this topic of visual ID, there were some tools that I kind of thought about that were important to help establish a person's visual identification. So from a perspective of, yes, true colors, a perspective of, a person may hand you their passport and you'll see they have, they're from this country because the passport is from this country and this is their birth date and this is their height and this is their weight and this is all their things. And we believe those things. We take them as truth. My license, I think, says like I'm 195 pounds, but I'm actually 226 pounds. So when that ID is presented, we are more apt to believe the ID than we are to believe who the person is showing us that they are. So from the first tool that I want to share with you guys tonight, when it comes to visual ID, the very first tool that I thought was critical in addressing this particular topic was naturalistic observation. And so that's a psychology term. What naturalistic observation is when you observe somebody in their natural state. So for instance, if I was at the zoo observing a lion, that is not the lion's natural habitat. Thus, you're observing the lion through the lens of a lion that has been captured and is in a cage. Versus if you're observing a lion with a telescope, because I don't believe in getting too close to lions in the wild, but if you're observing a lion with a telescope in the wild, their natural state may be very different. There may be some similarities, but the ability to wait until food comes, until it's dinner time, is not an option you have in the wild. So you'll see a different lion in the wild than in its natural state than you would see in the captive state or in captivity. How that relates to humans is when you're observing a human in their natural state, where they don't know they're being observed, where they think nobody's watching, or wherever it may be. You actually start bringing that representative, that person that they're presenting you, that ID, that passport. You're closing the space between that and who they actually are. And so you're able to start seeing more clearly the person that you're interacting with. So the first tool was naturalistic observation, understanding that people, when you take time to observe them from afar or proximity, but not with a known proximity, they tend to act a little different. You'll see. So I forget who I was having a conversation with, but the person said that, it was with you, Bruce. Bruce said the people who love you the most really know who you are. And it's because they're so close to you, you're relaxed around them and your guard is dropped around them, that you really expose who you are. So if you're a person who yells at people, you'll typically be yelling at people that you're close to, that you're comfortable with when you have a disagreement. If you're a person who does drugs, in the back alleys, don't want anybody to know, typically the people who are closest to you will know that you do those things. So naturalistic observation is a very key ingredient in establishing someone's visual ID. The second thing is, the second tool that I thought was very helpful in establishing a visual ID is tuning out the words and letting the action speak. Oftentimes we give the benefit of the doubt. Oh, maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe it was this, maybe it was that in relations to actions that take place that people present. And we allow sometimes for them to wiggle their way out of the actions that they commit with the words that they use. Oh, baby, I love you. You're the only one for me. I don't see myself with nobody else, whatever it may be. I may sound kind of fluent in that because I used to be about that life. I'm not about that life anymore. I'll just tell you the truth. If I love you, I love you. If I don't, I don't. But hey, what's going on, Boris? But when you stop allowing the words to drown out the actions, you start being able to, one, identify visually who you're dealing with, two, be able to hold people accountable to the things that they do. Now, whether they accept that accountability is a completely different conversation, but you can hold them accountable. The old, oh, well, you know, domestic violence was something that I grew up with, something that I've experienced in my own lifetime. So if you have that, oh, well, I hit you, but you know, I love you. Well, then why are you hitting me? If you love me, then you should probably keep your hands to yourself. So from that perspective, we allow that action of being assaulted to be minimized and suppressed by the words that we hear, these pleasant words. It's literally the baby please stage of anything in life. Everything in life has a baby please. I don't care if you're on your last chance at your job and they're like, look, you came in late today. We got to let you go. Oh, please, please, please just give me one more chance. And I promise I will never be late again. Really? Are you sure? Because you've been late like 85 times in the last 30 days. So those are the things that that's the second tool that I wanted to share, is just tuning out the words and letting the action speak unfiltered. The third thing is patience. Patience will always reveal truth. I teach my sons this constantly and when they try to lie about whatever it may be, it doesn't matter what it is. When I was a kid, I used to lie all the time. And that's what I tell them. Look, I used to lie all the time when I was a kid. There's really not a lie you can say that is going to get over my head. And I'm to the point now where I don't even work to try to figure out the lie. If it doesn't sound true, I just do the research that I need to do. And then normally by then, what's going on, squad? By then I have the answers that I need. So that's a critical thing, is allow patience to run its course. I'm not saying be patient with allowing them to produce actions that are harmful to you or negative for you. I'm talking about be patient and allow those little slips to take place and allow that story they call them Freudian slips, but allow those slips to take place where, oh, you know, he professes to be a gentleman, but he didn't get my door this time. I wonder what's up. Well, that means his act, he forgot. He forgot somewhere along the line that he told you, oh, I'm a perfect gentleman and I open the door every single time. He forgot. And so he'll have these little slips, or she'll have these little slips. Oh, you know, I'm such a lady. And then you're talking to her one time and it's like, that's not very ladylike in my opinion. Maybe your definition of a lady is different. But you'll see these things that reveal themselves over time because it is impossible to stay in character 24/7. I just actually looked up a story from, I don't even remember how many years ago now. It was a couple of years ago. But a person that I knew was a part of a Ponzi scheme and knew obviously he was a part of the Ponzi scheme. I didn't know it, but he knew he was part of the Ponzi scheme. He knew that he wasn't doing right. And, you know, you get to court and all these little slips start adding up to a story saying that you knew what you were doing. You knew that you were hurting people. And now you got to spend this federal time, which you don't get time off in federal time for good days and good behavior. So, you know, that's just part of life. You made that bed. Now you got to sleep in it. But that patience of that process, people will think they are getting away with things. Even we will think ourselves that we're getting away with things. And the reality is that we're not getting away with anything. Patience is just playing its part and allowing us to put our foot slowly into our mouth. And then all of a sudden we're in a situation where it's like, oh, baby, please, come on, just give me one more chance. Biggie, give me one more chance. So that's the third tool that I thought was very important in this particular topic of visual ID. And then the fourth tool is not so much um, it's not so much about the other person, but it's more so about you. And because I feel like once you get this particular tool down for yourself, it is easier to apply to other people. And that is cross-reference your own actions with your intentions. So when you're all alone and you do something stupid or you do something intelligent, cross-reference that with the intended result that you were seeking. So let's say I'm cooking, and in order to kind of be successful, let's say I'm baking, because that requires exact measurement. I'm baking, and in order to be successful at baking, you got to make sure your flour is right. You got to make sure your butter is right. You know, whatever you're doing, you got to make sure it's right. It's kind of like an exact science almost. But I'm like, I really want to be the best chef there is. I want to do this. And I'm telling, these are words. I'm telling myself that I want to do everything in my power to, you know, really impress the next person that I invite over for dinner with this souffle. That sounds great. But then I get the instructions in front of me and I start to make the souffle, and I'm like, I think I remember, and I'm just going to wing it. And I just start throwing ingredients in. Well, if I really want to impress somebody and I really want to perfect a craft, or I really want to convey that I care and want to nurture the person that's coming to experience the souffle, then I would really be putting the energy and effort into making sure that I have the right instructions in front of me and that I'm following those instructions. See, I feel like this is why this is important for us to apply to ourselves first, because once we can start identifying the real, I'm gonna just call it what it is. Once we can start identifying the real within ourselves, then it's a lot easier to identify fraudulent activity. So once I get good at balancing my bank account and making sure that my checks are clearing and that everything is lined up and know what money I have in my account, then it's easier to see when somebody comes into my account or tries to go through my account and makes a purchase. That's not my shopping behavior. That's not my spending behavior. And because I know it's not mine, it's easier to identify as fraud. So when I put that lens up, or I put those glasses up, I'm able to see, you know what, this person is saying a whole lot of things that sound really great, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of action that's lining up with that. So that's really what Visual ID is about. It's about establishing a baseline for who people are based on the actions they commit, not based upon the words that they say. There's plenty of people in this world who will call themselves friends, who will call themselves acquaintances, will call themselves lovers, will call themselves fathers, will call themselves mothers. They'll call themselves a lot of things, but what do their actions tell you that they actually are? And that's what Visual ID is about. So as always with Wednesday Words, I like to share a personal story, and I kind of struggled on which story I wanted to share in this particular circumstance. I didn't know if I wanted to share something where I got it wrong, something where I got it right, something of somebody else's information. And it kind of came down to one of the most critical moments where Visual ID, I feel like, allowed me to make a great choice in regards to friendship. And I'm not going to share any names in this story, but when I was younger, I got married at a young age, in my very early 20s. I got married. Well, actually, let's back up. Let's back up before that. When I was younger, I had friends, and I had tons of friends, and I still have tons of friends. But I have this one friend who we grew up together. We kind of had a good connection, and there were these slips in that friendship. Some slips were mine. Not all his, but some were mine in that friendship. And one slip caused where I had to make a decision. A couple of slips actually had to make a decision who my godfather was going to be for my firstborn son. And I picked 3 guys, and I had 4 guys, but I chose to pick only the 3. And it was because I had seen something in action that allowed me to identify, wait a minute, one of these kids is not like the other. And so I had to figure out, friends, I had to figure out, do I really want, if something happened to me, this person to be the father figure or a father figure to my son? As I always say, my children are my greatest asset. So do I want that for my son? And the answer was no. So, hey, I know I talked to you about being my son's godfather. I'm going to go ahead and rescind that offer. Yeah. Does it hurt to have to do that? Do you kind of have a little egg on your face because you're like, look, I said, I want you to be one of the guys, and now I'm taking that away. But what's more important, me saving your feelings or me making sure my son has the right male role models if I'm not here to be one? That's a rhetorical question. Excuse me. So the guy ended up not being my son's godfather. Then I got married. And when I got married, I picked the same guys pretty much to be up there with me when I was at the altar. This person's feelings were apparently hurt by that. And I think rightfully so. I don't want to invalidate his feelings, but I chose the top 3 people that were closest to me at that time to be there with me as my support on that day. So the night before I get married, this person decides, you know, it'd be a good idea. Maybe I should bring by one of his exes just to say, you know, good luck at getting married. No, that wasn't a good idea. And fortunately, I made sure I put myself in a position with the guys who were going to be up there with me at the altar. Hey, I need you guys to keep me on the straight and narrow because I was a knucklehead back then, still a little hard-headed today. So he ends up not being in the wedding, kind of like throw some lightweight salt towards the wedding. And then doesn't show up to the wedding, still invited to the wedding, doesn't show up to the wedding, then comes to the wedding and does like one thing and then leaves again. Okay, cool. You show me who you are twice. No problem. Then we get to the third action that just lets me know this person is not the person that I need to deem in my friend category. They can be deemed in a known category, a familiar category, but not a friend category. And so this person decided that they no longer, because of some circumstances, I don't want to get into that, but because of some circumstances, they didn't want to be the father to their son that I think that their son deserved. And it kind of brought me back to the very beginning of, I decided I didn't want this person to be a godfather to my son because I was able to visualize that identification or able to identify that those actions that would not lead to the successful leadership and role model that my sons need and deserve. And so it just goes to show you that I share that story, not to share somebody else's business, but I share that story because it is important to believe who people show you they are. Now, do people say they are? Because that person told me, hey, I'm your friend. I'm like your brother. Is me and you to the end. Heidi ho, ha ha. And then they were out. And even more so for me, with something that like fatherhood is like a really big thing with me. So to see that you're even out on your son, there's no way we could possibly be friends, because as a friend, I'm going to hold you accountable to that action. So let me get this straight. You decided that your children or your child doesn't need to be engaged with you, doesn't need to be involved with you because of what? Like there's drug addicts that are involved with their children. So if that's the lowest, let's say, I don't want to say drug people who are addicted to drugs are the lowest part of humanity, but let's say that's the lowest bar that you have to jump and you're not on any substance, you don't have an excuse with me. So again, just going back to recap really quick, the tools that I think are important when it comes to visual ID, the first one being naturalistic observation, observe people in their natural state when they don't know you're watching. 2, tune out the words, let the actions speak louder for what the person's intentions are. 3, allow patience to reveal the truth. And 4, cross-reference your own actions against your intentions so that you have a good lens, a good prescription to look at other people from not a judgmental standpoint, but just from a completely unfiltered, these are their actions and this is what those actions say to me. So other than that, I'm glad you guys tuned in. I don't know how many people are in here right now, but I see some people out here and Boris is making comments, cracking me up. But I definitely appreciate you guys rocking with me today on this Wednesday Word. The next live content or live show that will be available on First Row, the First Row YouTube channel, will be a First Row Intersation. That is next Tuesday. Normally, I have those at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Because of the person's availability, I'm actually going to have that at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday Pacific Standard Time. That topic will be preservation in relationships. Ooh. And that's with my actual brother, Damian Rowe. So if you have missed any intersations, jump on the channel, find something that speaks to you from a topic perspective, and get in there. There has been tons of information that has been poured, and I can't tell you the amount of growth that I've experienced just being in the presence of those. And that's not a nod to me. That's a nod to the people who have come on the show and shared their stories. So with that, I thank you guys for jumping in on the first row for the Wednesday Word. If you like this video, as always, share it. If you share it, like it. Either way, don't forget to subscribe, click subscribe and the bell notification so you can be notified when First Row is live. I'm gonna start actually doing some random nuggets here and there, probably like 2-3 minute videos. So you definitely want to hit that notification bell so you can be notified when those are taking place live. I'm always happy to engage with you guys in the comments, in the chat below. Until then, or until next week, next Tuesday, I will see you in about 6 days, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for sitting on the first row. Love, one love, peace, and God bless. Take it easy.